Well, we'll go ahead and get started. I want to thank everybody for coming. My name is Bill Ramsour. I work here in Austin for Unity on the Asset Bundle and Build Pipeline team. I have here with me Hiroki Omae. He is the regional director for Unity Japan. So he wears about 1,000 different hats, but one of them is helping us with asset bundles. And today we will be talking about the Asset Bundle browser and the Asset Bundle graph tool, two tools to hopefully help you guys in your workflows. So I'm going to give a brief introduction about what the tools are at a very high level, and then go into what exactly an asset bundle is, again, at a very high level, in case you guys are totally unfamiliar, but hopefully most of you are aware. And then I'm going to talk about the Asset Bundle browser and how it can be used to manage your manual control of asset bundles. And I'll give you a little bit of a demo on that. And then Hiroki will talk about the Asset Graph tool and how it can be used to create bundles through automation. And it can actually do a lot of things, but the focus of this will be bundles through automation. And then we should have plenty of time at the end for Q&A. So what is the purpose of these tools? These tools are built to be on top of today's asset bundle system. They are not fixing the system. They are not replacing the system. They are just a layer on top to make the current system more usable. We know that today's asset bundle system has some flaws and has some challenges, and the goal of these tools is to make it much more usable, make it much more intuitive. Hopefully, a lot of you were at this morning's talk called A Look Ahead, Resource Manager, Addressables, and Live Preview. If you weren't there, I recommend trying to find it online later. That one really went into kind of what the future is going to look like, what we're hoping to do to actually have a more robust, full system that works kind of end-to-end. These tools are really just what can we do today to help you guys out. These tools are built to really work with 2017.1 and beyond. They work as far back as 5.6 for the browser and 5.5 for the graph tool, but 2017 is really where things shine. So what are asset bundles? Again, I'm going to go pretty quickly because most of you are probably aware. Basically, it's a container for serialized objects, just like a zip file. These are platform specific, so if you create a bundle for one platform, you will have to then probably recreate it for another platform. They are interdependency aware, and what I mean by that is if you have an asset in bundle A that's dependent on an asset in bundle B, the bundles are aware of that, and you can use that data at runtime to make sure you load both bundles or load whatever it is you need. There's two categories of bundles. There's either scene bundles or not so scene bundles. Basically, if you put a scene in an asset bundle, it's a scene bundle. At that point, that's all that you can have in there. You can have more than one scene, but you can't have prefabs or textures or whatever else explicitly put into that bundle. And then the other category is basically if you don't have a scene in the bundle, it's a loose bundle or an asset bundle, or you can make up your own name, but it's not a scene bundle. And I would suggest reading the Asset Bundle manual. We've been working on it the past few months and getting it a little bit improved. At the very end of this presentation, we will have all the links spelled out. So for those of you that, I think those in the room should get access to this deck at some point, but anyone watching it online or anyone that doesn't get access should be able to see that at the very end. All right, why would you use asset bundles? The most common reason is you're making a mobile game, and you want the initial install size to be smaller. So what you do is you make your game where the tutorial level or some of the early levels would be built into the player. That's what the user downloads when they install from the App Store. And then the later assets that you don't need immediately, you put into asset bundles, you put up on some web server, they get downloaded later on as the user is using the app, just to potentially make the installs quicker or to get under the 100 megabyte over-the-air limit that you might run into. Some of the other reasons to use asset bundles, you can update incrementally. You can change out what's on the server in your asset bundles without changing other things, and it lets you update things more quickly. You can also more precisely manage your runtime memory. You get to load and unload what you need when you need it, and you have a lot more control over that. You can also selectively deliver content. What I'm talking about here is you can have one bundle with your high-definition assets and another bundle with your low-definition assets, and depending on what device is being used, you can download the appropriate bundle and use that. There's a couple of ways to pull this off. One is the variant system, which I will get into a little bit later on. But glossing over the details, you can do this to optimize for specific devices. And you can also improve build and iteration time. You can build bundles using caching, and you can also just build what you need as you go. All right, so a quick overview of the tool before I get into the demo. It's open source, public API-based tool. It's out on GitHub and in the asset store. So the key here is that it's just using public APIs. It's just using what's available in the engine. So you guys can pull this down. You can customize it for your needs, however you need to. Hopefully, it covers most of your use cases. But if it doesn't, you are welcome to do with it what you want. If you find bugs, GitHub's the place to put issues up. If you fix the bug, put in a PR on GitHub. That really helps us out when you do our work, and we can just take in your PRs. Even if you have a new feature, feel free to put that up. Let us know. We really appreciate that feedback. So what does the tool actually do? There's three main sections of it, configure, build, and inspect. Configure is where you're going to spend most of your time if you're using the tool. Basically, it configures asset bundles. What it lets you do is that you see all the asset bundles available to you. It lets you see what is explicitly and implicitly put into the bundle. And what I mean by that is if you put some prefab into a bundle, you say this prefab's going in this bundle. You're explicitly adding that prefab to the bundle. But that prefab has dependencies. Textures, meshes, materials, whatever it may be. So at build time, what the system does is it takes that prefab and it looks at all the dependencies and it says, okay, this texture needs to be, it's a dependency. And it says, is this texture explicitly added to any bundle, this one or a different one? If it is, it's done, it moves on with its life. If it isn't, then that texture is pulled in at build time. And so that's what I mean by implicit assets, these things that get pulled in at build time that you didn't actually choose to put into that bundle. And this tool lets you see both what's explicitly and implicitly added. The tool also provides basic build configuration. This will cover, I would say, most games most of the time. But as you get to either you're doing a bigger and more advanced game or you're late in your development cycle and you need to start doing some pre-processing or post-processing, this is a very basic build. But again, it's open source. You're welcome to take it, customize it, and do with it what you need to. And then the last thing it does is it lets you inspect built bundles. This is kind of a surface level inspection. It doesn't cover everything that's in the bundle, but it lets you, for the most part, see what you had put in there. So one last slide before I get into the demo, a couple of limitations of the browser. For one, dependency calculation occasionally has false positives. Like I said, you put some prefab in there. What the browser is going to do is kind of guess at the dependencies, do the best it can to figure out the dependencies, to figure out what's going to be implicitly pulled in. Sometimes it has some false positives because some things get compiled out when you're actually building for the player or that kind of thing. So just a heads up there. Another heads up is that the pre-built asset size is an estimate. It's not going to be precise. It'll give you the ballpark to figure out, okay, this bundle's way too big, this bundle's a lot smaller, let me balance it. But when you actually need precise control, you need to do that build it loop. In the future, we're hoping to get rid of that with our new build pipeline setups to break that up, but for now, this is what we got. And then the post-build inspector does not actually tell you what's implicitly included. You can figure it out from all the data that's there, but it doesn't actually report that to you. All right, and with that, I will get into a demo here. All right, so I've got a game here set up, and I wanted to show you real quick, to start with, how you would set up an asset bundle without one of these tools, just for context. So you'd select some asset that you want to be in a bundle. You'd go down here to the bottom of the inspector, do asset bundles, new, cool things is the bundle I want to put it in, and now I've got a bundle. I can select some other asset and add that to the bundle as well. There's two downsides to this, though. For one, I have no way, really, of telling what's going to be pulled in. So this prefab, it has nothing in the sprite renderer, but it does have an animator that'll pull in an animation, that'll pull in a sprite sheet. But that's a few layers deep. That's a pain for me to figure out. The other thing is as soon as I deselect this prefab, I have to remember that I had put that thing in that bundle, and I have to go dig it up somehow. So here's the browser. If I hit refresh, it'll find that we had created a bundle called Cool Things and put some things into it. So I want to highlight this to show that if you are well along in your project and you've already been using asset bundles, you can get this tool and it'll see what you've done so far. You don't have to start your project with this tool. So in this case here, it's got a list of all my many bundles, which is this one, and I select it, and it gives me some information about the bundle, as well as listing what's in it. You can see here, enemy 1 and 2 are explicitly added, and they're given the title of being in this bundle, and then these other things are listed as being implicitly added. And we can see that enemy 2 tells us what it's going to pull in, what are its dependencies, and I can select one of these animations, and it's going to tell me who are the parents that are pulling this in. So you can figure out that linkage and figure out what's going on. I also want to show you that if you didn't already have asset bundles set up, you don't actually need to use the inspector at all. You can just take whatever assets you want, drag them in, create a bundle. I'm going to call it cool things again because I like that name, and we're back where we were without ever using the inspector. So ideally with this tool, you should never need to. Now, most of what I want to show will be in this section, but I'm going to run through the other sections real quick just to give you guys an overview. So build, like I said, it's super basic. You click build, it builds. You have a few settings. You can change some of the things, but they're just the basic kind of default settings with building asset bundles. And then inspect here, I can come over here and take a look at this bundle that's built, and it tells me how big it is. And probably the most important thing, or the most valuable thing it provides, is the paths to the source assets. This is especially useful if you're building bundles over time and putting them in different folders, and maybe you've got some up on a server, and 6 months later you're trying to remember, what did I put in this bundle? This can tell you in a pretty easy, straightforward way. Also, if you go in here to advanced, it is the inspector of a bundle that the native engine provides. So it has preload table, and through all this, you can figure out what's implicitly pulled in. But that's kind of getting into the weeds, so I'm not really going to go into it here, but that data is there and available to you. So if I come back over here to configure, I've decided that these enemies don't get along well, so I'm going to move him to his new bundle. So I just grab the asset from the right side, drag it over here to the left, and I've created a new bundle. Since there was only one asset, it went ahead and auto-named it after that asset. And we can see suddenly we have some warnings. The key feature of this tool is it figures out what might be off with your bundles. In this case, it's giving a warning about what's probably one of the most common issues people run into, which is duplicated assets. So in this case, we've got enemy 1 in one bundle and enemy 2 in another bundle. And the system at build time is going to see, for example, the sprite sheet and say, OK, enemy 1 needs this sprite sheet. This sprite sheet isn't explicitly put anywhere, so it's going to pull that sprite sheet into this bundle. And then when it moves on to the next bundle, it says, hey, enemy 2 needs this sprite sheet. That sprite sheet isn't explicitly added anywhere, so it pulls it in. And so now once you've built the bundles, that sprite sheet exists in both bundles, which takes up a little bit more space on your hard drive. But also, when you're at runtime and you load those bundles, the system has no way of kind of backtracking that. The system has no idea that those two sprite sheets used to be the same thing. So when you load them, they are considered unique. They will be essentially duplicated in memory. So there are times when you'd want to do that, and if you really want to, you are welcome to, but most of the time you don't, and so this tool will warn you and let you know. And it explains things if you're not sure what's going on. It gives a warning on the bundle itself as well as the specific assets to tell you, hey, here's what's going on. This thing's auto-included in more than one bundle. So to fix it, we could drag it out, as I'd already showed you you can do, but also you can just right-click and say, move duplicates to new bundle, and it figured out what we needed to do for us. That's what I'll call that guy. So now I don't have duplicates in my asset bundles. Everything's fixed for me. Since I showed you warnings, I'm going to also now show you an error case. I had mentioned earlier that scenes, if they're in a bundle, like I dragged this guy up here, now I've made a scene bundle. The icon's a little bit different. I don't know if you can quite tell on that screen. But I told you, you cannot put an asset in a scene bundle. So if I come over here, the bundle browser will actually prevent you from doing something that's broken. So if I grab this enemy and try to drag it onto this bundle, it won't let me. It blocks that action because it knows it's an error. The old system, however, was not so kind. And I could come down here to asset bundle and be rude and put him in main. And now I'm in a broken state. This will not build. So I can come over here and hit refresh. And one quick digression about the refresh button. The tool does a lot of kind of expensive dependency calculations, so they're done in the background. So for the most part, you could just sit here and wait, and it would figure out things were broken. But I'm in a hurry here, so I'm just going to hit refresh. But it flagged, gave a little error icon here on this bundle, it gives me a more involved message down here, as well as on these specific assets. It can tell us, hey, this ain't right. And so it also gave me an info message on this bundle, basically just to tell me that the bundle is empty. Empty bundles aren't really a real thing. Sometimes they stay around, sometimes they disappear. It's just they're not really honored by the system very well. So the tool will just warn you, hey, this bundle might suddenly not exist pretty soon if you're not careful. So I can come back over here to main and fix my error at the same time as I fix this warning by putting enemy1 back into cool things. So another kind of workflow thing I'll show you guys. I can take a whole bunch of assets and drag them in, and the system will say, actually, before I do that, I will tell you if I, oops, get cool things back. If I take all of these assets, I can drag them all into this right side, and it will add all of them to the current bundle. I could also drag them onto any bundle, and it will add them to it. If I just drag them into the open space, it gives me the choice. Do I want to create 1 bundle or 6? I'm going to choose 6 because I like lots of bundles. But now I'm getting nervous. Things are a little chaotic. So I want to organize things a little bit more. So I can go in here, add new folder, and call it stuff. And very well organized. You guys should see the games I make. They're phenomenally well organized. And I can take this and drag it in here if I can drag correctly. And now that's organized. Things are a little bit kept up with a little bit better. You can also just rename things as you'd want. Like I could call this local/common. And now that bundle is actually inside of a folder. This is especially useful. This isn't really about the tool, but one of the nice things you can do with these folders, with the organization structure, is start to rename things in ways that actually help you keep up with what are you going to do with these bundles, right? Some of them might end up staying local. Some of them might go remote. And naming convention is a good way to do that, especially organizing it within this tool. Now, I'm going to take this game manager guy and move him over here to local to show one other thing. So game manager is the game manager, so it needs a lot of other, it's dependent on a lot of things. And the tool will help us see that. So if we select the bundle, we can come down here and see all the other bundles it's dependent on. And one of the nice things about this is, so at runtime, you can just figure this out on your own as you're loading things. But one of the nice things about seeing it in advance is that, hey, I see that I'm actually dependent on something in my remote folder. So maybe I need to remove that remote thing local because I want to load this game manager right out of the gate. So this tool can help you identify some issues like that. Also, I can select the actual game manager asset. And as I showed you before, it lists the dependencies down here. But in this case, not all the dependencies are in that bundle. Some of them are explicitly put elsewhere. And so I can go through here and see what things were pulled in, or what things it's dependent on, and where they live to keep up with all that. The very last thing I want to go into here is variants. Again, I'm not going to go into too much what they actually are, but just want to let you know that the system does support it. I can take a bundle and say convert to variant, and now it's a variant. I'm going to call this high res. And this is my high resolution assets in this bundle now. And if you're not familiar with variant naming, basically you end up with bundle name dot variant name. And that's how things get created. You can also actually just rename it inline that way. But if I come here and add another variant, the system, low res, this system will actually tell me that I'm not following all the variant rules. Variants have some specific rules that you have to keep up with to make them actually work right. And that's one of the reasons that I think a lot of people don't use them, is they're kind of a pain to follow all of those rules. But hopefully this system will help you make it a little more intuitive, make it a little more usable, that you can say, hey, this wasn't set up the right way. Here's why. Here's how I fix it. So that is the end of my demo. I'm going to turn it over to Hiroki, and then he can take it from here.
Okay.
Thanks.
Hi, I'm Hiroki, and I'm going to talk about the asset graph. We renamed this tool from Asset Bundle Graph tool recently, so you might know this tool in a different name. Okay, so let's So Asset Graph is also an open source C# tool, and it uses the public APIs, and you're welcome to modify as you like. And it is available on our Bitbucket repository. This is a node-based tool, help you to build workflow around the asset and help you automate it. You can use this tool to create a workflow around the asset import, or you can do create and modify assets. But it is also very helpful for building asset bundles and building players. So that's what I'm going to show you today. So and this tool works together with the asset bundle browser you just saw out of the box. And I'll be using the browser throughout my demo, and you'll see how it works together very well. So before jumping to the demo, I want to talk about who this tool is for. This tool is designed for the technical artists and the programmers who build the asset workflow for artists and designers, and also creating asset bundles and build pipelines. But this is also useful for the artists because it visually tells you and helps you understand how the asset get imported and modified, and how it's get into the asset bundles and so on. Okay, so let's start demo now. In order to work with Asset Graph, I am opening up the Asset Graph window right here. And this is the window I use. And let's create some the graph assets called the build asset bundles. And then my first example is let's create a very simple bundle. So the first thing that I do here is that I have these 3 vehicles, and in my production I have these 3 folders in my game folder, and in each of these folder I have prefabs stored, just like this aircraft. Yeah. So okay. So what I do? So to start, what I'm going to do is to drag this vehicles folder into the Asset Graph window, which creates this loader node. This loader node is the node which passes all the assets under the folder. And then the next node that I'm creating is a grouping node. Okay. So let's create the group node. So this is the node which creates the named group with the given set of rules. So there are several grouping nodes in this tool, and now I'm working with so in this demo I'm working with the file path demo. So let's rename this to vehicles. And in this the grouping keyword, I am setting up some rules. And in my this project, my data is set up under this vehicle folder, and I have this V001, V002, V003 folder. So these are my production rules. So let's set this to vehicle/something. Okay, and let's connect these 2 nodes together, and which shows you these 3. And then this one, when you click it, and it gives you this group name called 0. And if I click here, I have these 3 assets that is under this vehicles folder. So those 3 assets are passed into this group node. Okay, so let's continue. So the next thing that I want to create is this configure bundle from group node. This is the node that creates the asset bundle configuration. And let's rename this to the vehicles bundle. And connect these two together. Now I have this 3 column 3, and what this means is that I have 3 groups, and I have 3 assets passed from this the grouping node to the bundle configuration. And when I click these 3 groups, I have these 3 groups names taken from the folder, and each groups have 1 prefabs. Okay. So. So now I have configured like 3 asset bundles, and let's see this in the asset bundle browser. In the asset bundle browser, if you install the asset graph, there is this data source drop-down menu, and if you click it, you can actually select the data source, and you can see these asset bundles configured from the asset graph. And when you select this data source and switch it to the asset graph, the asset bundle browser becomes the read-only, so you cannot mess around with it. So let's continue. And now in this bundle configuration, I have this name template. And let's rename this to vehicles so that I have a better idea what this bundle is for. And when I rename this and reload, these changes take effect instantly so that you see the bundle name being changed. Okay. So okay, so let's then okay. So what's good about this is that so now in my when my production goes on, I want to add the another vehicles. For say I want to add like V004 here, and then I have this new white car, so I am copying this to this V004. Okay, so I have these assets. And then when I go back to the asset graph tool, it already recognizes these new assets, and loader picks it up, and then it has the new group called the V004 with this car 2. And when I reload the asset bundles browser, it automatically gives you the vehicles V004. So in this way, you can configure these rules, and you can just forget about it, and then you can just keep making these assets in the rule that you decided, and then these asset bundles are being configured automatically. So you don't have to worry about it. So let's build this. How do you build this asset bundles with this graph? To build, what you use is this build asset bundles node, and this one builds all the asset bundles that is passed by this configuration throughout the node. So I change this output directory settings, and I'm exporting this to this asset bundles, and then changing some options, and then press build, and it builds. Okay, so next thing that I want to show you is to solve dependencies. So when I look at this asset bundle browser, it shows you these warning icons. Okay, reload, and it gives you the idea those implicit assets are being included into these asset bundles, and then you want to remove these duplicates, because then if you have it, you will have more memory footprint when you load these asset bundles together. So how do I solve this? To solve these dependencies, the node I create is this extract shared asset node. This is the node that extracts the implicit shared asset from given asset bundle configurations and configure the asset bundles from these shared assets. So I am now naming this to vehicle shared assets, shared vehicle assets. Not resource, say assets. And then let's connect this, connect the output of the bundle configuration, and then connect the output to the build asset bundles. And let's rename this to the V share something, so that I know that these are the shared asset from the vehicles. Okay, so when I click here, it has like 31 assets with 6 groups. And when I reload the bundle browser, it gives me these 2 shared asset bundles. And then when I click this one, it shows that all the implicit assets from the car vehicles are being put here. And when I click these zeros right here, these are assets from these aircraft vehicles. So that so it automatically calculates and finds these assets are shared between the several bundles and creates the multiple shared asset bundles for you, so that you don't have to worry about it. And now all the warnings are gone, so that my dependency problem is being solved. Okay, so let's move on to our next thing. So sometimes, so next example that I want to show you is the how to put the assertion. So I have these beautiful props, and these are chairs and bed. And they're stored under this game folder right here. And all my games data that I want to put into the asset bundles, or whether coming from this game folder or the data folder. So that's how I'm storing my props under game folder. So let's create this. Let's create the rule for the props again. So what I do is drag and drop the folder, the props folder, and create this group by file path, just like before. Let's rename it to props. And connect it together. And then I can copy and paste this node and recycle it. So I'm recycling this vehicle bundle configuration for the props. And let's connect this together. And let's rename this to props and connect. And let's reload, and now I have these props asset bundles. Okay, good. So what I want to do here is that there are these the games folder here and data folder, and these are the folders that I only want to put asset bundles assets in. So that anything coming from like shared assets, I mean standard assets, or anything coming from this ETC folder, I don't want to put them into my asset bundles accidentally. And how do I prevent this? So to do this, I'm creating this assert node. And this one checks the incoming assets. And then if there is anything, any asset that is coming from unwanted place, it creates an error. So now I am setting this to the prohibit asset under certain path, and I'm selecting this etc folder so that if any assets are coming from this etc folder, this assert will catch it. Now let's connect this, put it in between, and now it says the error. Okay, so when I look at it, there's this fabric2n assets coming from the etc folder, and you will recognize this build button is actually disabled, so you cannot build. So you have to fix all the errors in order to build asset bundles. Now this fabric2n is coming from this etc folder, and it is implicitly included. So let's see where it is coming from. This coming from this material, and there is this detail normal field, and this is coming from there. Okay, so now I know that these textures are texture that I want to ship. So I am moving this texture folder into data and props. And now I reload it, and you see this error icon is gone, and I can build it again. So in this way, you can make sure that those assets are not accidentally get into your asset bundle, so that you're not shipping the unwanted data. Okay, so that's good. Okay, so the last example I want to show is a variance. So in my this prop data, in this bed prop, I have HD texture, and I have SD texture. And I want to create the variants for SD textures and HD textures that works with this bed asset bundle. So right now, when I click this bed asset bundle, both textures for the SD and HD are included. So this is not good. So I want to fix this. So what I create here to fix this is a new node called the split by filter node. This is the node you can configure the filtering rules, and then it splits the incoming assets and create a multiple output. So for this time, I want to split the assets for SD textures and HD textures and everything else. So let's name it to SD HD textures, and then connect the loaders output here and create some filter. And I know this SD textures are under SD folder, and HD textures are under HD folder, and then everything else is goes to the third one, the rest. And I'm just connecting this the third one to this prop group that I created before, because that goes like everything else goes there. And I'm copying this group node. And let's name it to SD textures and HD textures. Okay, and just connect it like this. And now when I click here, I see these HD textures, like 5 textures are coming in. So it's probably good. So let's create the setting for the variants. So I copy the prop bundle settings and make it the rename to variant textures. And so in order to create the variants, I click this plus button and create new field and rename it to SD and HD. And this is going to be the configuration for the variants. So I connect this to SD and HD, each output. And let's rename this to prop texture something, prop text something. And let's connect the output to the bundle builder. So now I have a group name called the prop underbar text underbar bed. And when I click this, I have 10 assets, and then in this list view, it says that like some assets are marked as variant SD, and some assets are marked as HD. So okay. And then let's reload the asset bundles browser. And then now I have these SD and HD variants properly configured, and I can see it from the asset bundle browser. So so in this way, when I have any other props that I need to have the texture variants for SD and HD, all I have to do is create the SD folder and HD folder and place all the textures in it. And this node automatically takes care of it in the same rule so that you have all the asset bundles properly set up. So that's it. And then and the last thing that I see these warning icons in props. So let's create this the shared extract shared asset node again and rename it and just place it in between and just reload it, and it creates these new asset bundles for the prop shared items. So now everything's taken care of and all the warning's gone. And here's my rule for my production. And then I can just relax and forget about the asset bundles. And then these asset bundles are, when I press the build, everything's built. Okay, so that's the asset graph. And then this tool is pretty powerful, and it can be used more than asset bundles. And it works with the importer settings, and you can also generate assets. You can create prefabs automatically. You can modify assets. And then this tool is all about removing the repetitive tasks from your workflow. And I'm going to talk about this tool more on 4:30 today at the mini theater. And I'm going to talk about something other than asset bundles. So if you're interested, please come visit. So that's all my demo. Yeah. Thank you.
All right, well, we got these links up here for you if anybody needs to note any of those. And we'll open it up for any questions, if there are any. If you can get over to the mic, yeah. Oh, here, can you go back to the
links?
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So one of our biggest workflow issues for us is shader variants.
Okay.
And knowing, like, way after the fact, like, which variant is in which bundle. Do you have like tips for that? Because basically we just rebuild it because it's like,
Yeah, shader variants are particularly complex. This tool, the browser has not been built to identify what exactly ends up in there. The shader variant collection is what's going to be useful to help you get that right. But The browser itself doesn't really look at that right now, but that is definitely something we could explore more. Yeah, we haven't dug into that too much, but understanding exactly what's going on with shader variants, I think, is a useful thing that isn't hit on. I don't know if the graph tool handles that at all.
Not much. I mean, it takes care of the through the shader variance correction, but that's about it. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we can definitely look into that more and see what we can do.
You can go. Second question. I have two questions for both you guys, or one question for each of you. First question is for
Hiroki.
Hiroki.
Yes.
How are the assets in the shared bundle? How are they split up? Because I noticed that you created the shared bundle. You did some magic, and then all of a sudden there were two shared bundles.
Yep.
And it wasn't clear how the files got split up.
Okay, so it does some magic. So for this extract shared assets, when you take all the incoming asset bundle configurations, it reads all the implicit assets and checks up which one is dependent on which, and creates the multiple asset bundles. So it makes like as smaller as possible, and for those shared assets. So like if you have assets shared between like 3 asset bundles, then you get like 1, and if you get the rest of like the assets shared between 2, you get like 1. So that's how it is done. So you will have like very small size.
It tries to optimize it as much as possible, basically.
That's what I wanted to say. Yeah.
What I didn't understand was why, for instance, there wasn't just one shared bundle, as opposed to there were 2 created.
Well, because okay, so in this example, I had 4 vehicles, and 2 vehicles was airplane, and that was like 2 prefabs or sharing the assets, and 2 were cars, and those cars were sharing the asset bundles. So those 2 different, 4 different assets sharing like 2 groups of shared assets. So that's why that created the 2 asset bundles.
Fundamentally, it tries to create a common bundle so that when you're loading whatever you're loading, say that airplane, it's only going to load the common bundles that it will use. So if all the car parts aren't needed by the airplane, it's not going to be in the airplane's common bundle. The browser does not do things that smartly.
Then my next question for you.
Okay?
Basically, if you have, let's say that you're creating a native plugin,
Okay.
and you have some data, and is there a way to load that data in a memory-aligned fashion from an asset bundle?
That is a question beyond my capabilities to answer right now on the fly. We do have a lot of people from the asset bundle team in the room, so if you want to hit me up after this, I can try to help you out. Yeah.
Yes.
Quick question. Is there any way to use the asset graph in your whole pipeline to decide, let's say, some objects go through a bundle, have them use different import settings instead of going through your assets and doing a separate task?
You mean import settings?
Like, let's say texture compression for a certain bundle.
Yes, you can. Yes, you can. So there are multiple ways to configure, but there are nodes that there are override import settings nodes. So you can use that to customize the import settings. And then if you need several assets for like the Android, for instance, like if you need the assets textures for Android high-end, Android low-end, and that the tool can actually generate the asset from the texture, so you can actually like create a copy, and you can set the import setting for it, and you can use the create asset bundles throughout that. Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry if you covered this, but I assume there's a way to set which compression type of bundle we use in the bundle browser.
In the bundle browser, the build tab provides lets you set compression as well as whatever the other standard things. appending hash and things like that. It doesn't let you do, it doesn't automatically inject any kind of post-processing or anything like that, but the standard settings of basically uncompressed LZMA or LZ4 you can do, as well as the other handful of settings.
Great.
Yep.
I have two small questions about the graph tool.
Yep.
One, can you script your own like searching nodes?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Second one is it possible to have grouping? So like sub-state machines and the animation controller. Because things can get out of control when you have a huge graph or like a big project with variants, and you have to create 4 similar kind of streams of like pipelines. So like if you can group to one node and like duplicate that, that would make it easier. Okay.
So right now, it doesn't do it out of the box. So that graph can get messy. After all, and then you can actually write your own custom node to do a bunch of things. So inside that node, you can call out the different graphs, but it's not really recommended. But it can get pretty messy if you put a lot of items there.
Go ahead.
Does the asset graph have a way to add, so it sounds like it probably does, but a way to add custom post-processing for the bundles? So something like, I'm finished building the bundles, now I want to run them, I built uncompressed them, and I want to run them through a custom compression.
Yes. So this asset graph have a lot of custom script that you can write, and one of the script you can write is the post processing. So from the menu, you can create this custom post processing script, and you can just write your own work there.
Okay.
I have a question on loading asset bundles. How important is it to load them in the right order? Like right now, we go through like a lot of trouble to make sure, like I'll give you a simple example. We load like the texture asset bundle, and the material asset bundle, and the prefab asset bundle, and then the scene asset bundle, and then we unload all of them. Does that order really matter? Or like can I load like
No.
texture?
Most of the asset bundle team behind you is shaking their head no. So no, it doesn't matter. You do need to make sure everything is loaded that you need, but the order of the loading doesn't matter. Okay.
For the graph tool, are you able to execute other graphs from a graph?
So right now, I don't explicitly add that feature, but there is a scripting command that you can call to execute some graph, so that you can use it like to execute graph from the menu, or like you can write custom nodes to execute that from the graph. Yeah.
Okay.
So you showed your graph tool works with variants.
Yes.
The problem we have with variants is duplicating assets.
Mhm.
Is there a way to create a node where you can just say on your texture compression settings, and then the bundle is just generated after the asset is actually compressed?
So what you're saying is that so can you repeat the question?
Yeah. So if you have, let's say you have a texture,
Uh-huh.
instead of duplicating that texture, so you have an SD and HD
Mhm.
version of it, so
Mhm.
you can put them in 2 different bundles.
Mhm.
What if you have your texture and you can just say, this is the SD version of it, these are the compressions I want to use, and this is the HD version, and then just create 2 buttons out of it.
So the problem of current asset bundle system is that the asset bundle have to be built at once, so that you have to have the assets for SD and HD in place. So you cannot do like do it like incremented like that. So that's the current limitation. And then what you want, like if you want to do it, you have to like generate the texture. Yeah.
That is something the team is aware of, and as we're looking at what the future may hold, exploring what might be possible along those lines. Yeah, you want to have one texture and have the import settings change depending on the device, basically. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's something we don't quite have a solution for yet, but
Yeah.
we are aware of that problem. So.
The APIs for the asset
Yeah.
So is it possible with the asset graph, right now we have everything going through for all the example, just do a single build button. Say I only wanted to build props, or I only wanted to build the vehicles. Is it possible to separate those out?
So that is possible, but that is not recommended because because like I said in earlier question, when you build the asset bundles, that you need the whole picture of the asset bundles. Otherwise, you're
Dependencies and
Yeah, yeah.
things get out of whack if
Yeah.
you build some of the bundles and not the others.
So what we do, for an example, is our system would take 8 hours to build a full clean asset bundle. So what we have is things that are separated enough. And currently what we're doing to kind of separate out these builds is we're stripping the assets that we don't need to build as asset builds.
Okay.
So we have like flows and then we have cars.
Yeah. So if you're not using the global manifest, and if you don't need to worry about it, then you can create a multiple workflow, and you can create a multiple this building node, and just the build the you can create nodes to only create the vehicles and only create the props, and just put it onto the server and work with it. You can perfectly do that. But the manifest is not being in good state, so that you don't want to use it.
Yeah, essentially we create our own manifest whenever we're doing that. But okay, thank you.
All right. Well, thank you. Looks like most people already took off, but hey, thanks everybody. Really appreciate it.